guys, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel and welcome to my first drive video and initial review of the brand new BMW X3M competition parked behind me. This car was dropped off to me by BMW UK only a couple of days ago and I've already covered about 300 miles in it. It retails at about £77,500 on the road here in the UK, which makes it just over £20,000 more than the X3M 40i spec for spec. Is it worth the extra money? Well, we're going to find out that over the next week or so. In the meantime, let's have a quick walk around the outside of the car, check out the cabin, and then take it out for a drive. Here in the UK, we don't get offered the X3M, we only get the X3M competition, which this one is. So it comes with a host of standard equipment, including 21-inch wheels, double glazing, adaptive M suspension, LED icon headlamps, merino leather, Harman Kardon sound, M head-up display, Pro Media, which is iDrive 6 in this particular car, and heated seats. One of the things I'm most excited and interested about though is under the bonnet. It is the brand new S58 engine, which is the engine we're going to find in next year's brand new M3 and M4. It's a 3-litre twin power turbo inline 6 with 510 brake horsepower and 600 Newton meters of torque. Although this is a 2+ ton SUV, that power plant and the ZF 8-speed gearbox managed to get this from 0 to 62 in just 4.1 seconds, and that's a BMW claim figure, so we're probably looking at realistic 3.9 or 4 seconds dead, which is outstanding for a car that weighs so much and is actually so big. This being a X3 has X-Drive, and in fact because it's an X3M it has MX drive, which means it has the same or a very similar setup to what you find in the current M5 and M5 competition, and therefore in X-Drive Sport or 4-wheel drive Sport it gets very rear biased, and therefore it actually feels very much like a rear wheel driven car, but with some magic traction out of slower corners, because obviously it's utilizing the front wheels where it needs to. This particular press car is fitted with the brilliant Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's, which I'm super excited about. It has extra aggression around the front end compared to the M40i or any of the other X3s. Obviously it's got the traditional M side gills here. We've got massive M calipers and brakes behind these huge 21-inch wheels. We've actually got a standard fitment M Performance exhaust, which is 4 pipes. It looks really good. And again, around the back, I think it just looks fantastic. Really, really good. Even the badging's not too bad in black. But the lines and stuff in this beautiful Donington grey just look really good. I think it is literally one of the best looking, if not the best looking SUV on the market today. It hasn't got the ridiculous grills in the front that the very recent and newest BMW design language have, but it looks ultra modern. Let's jump inside. The cabin is really nice. The merino leather just finishes everything off. These seats are so comfortable. They have adjustable headrests as well, so they fit giants like me with no issues. Supportive, comfortable. That Avengers pillow will make sense a bit later in the video. Looking around the cabin, it's really nice in here. You've got to remember this is the X3 and not the very latest X5, so it does look a bit dated in places compared to some of the very latest BMWs. It has the iDrive 6 as opposed to the operating system 7 in here, but we still got a digital dash. We've got the very latest BMW M steering wheel that you find in the M5 and the M8. And everything works very well. You've got the new gear stick down there that obviously operates the brilliant ZF 8-speed gearbox. This car's fitted with a beautiful panoramic roof and it's absolutely massive, as you can see. Lets lots of light into the car. Looking in the back, again, plenty of room. It's lovely and airy in here, really nice place to be. I actually sat in the back the other day and it's just lovely with all this glass around to look through. It's fantastic, really nice ambient lighting. This has got an optional carbon pack, which I'm not sure about actually. We'll head around the other side and talk more about that. In fact, before we do, let's just open the boot, have a quick look in there. As you'd expect, it's pretty big. Bit of underfloor storage as well in there. Got my camera gear there, but very big, and obviously with those seats folded, it's huge. You've got the 40, 20, 40 split, so you can fold either side down if you want and utilize some of that extra space. Just jumping in this side, as you can see, there's lots to tell you that you're in an X3M competition. There's another badge down here, just in case you've forgotten by the time you get inside. But yeah, lots of nice trim in here. You can see the M head-up display. But I think the problem with this carbon trim is it actually shows off some of the cheaper plastics in not such a great way. So that even in a X320D looks a little bit cheap. But in this particular car, with the optional carbon pack and the red start button, I think that plastic begins to look a bit out of place. But maybe that's just me nitpicking, because otherwise in here, it's a really nice place to be. And I love the colors of everything. I just think it's great. And these seats, I know I've said it already, but wow, what incredible seats. See what it sounds like. Firstly from inside the cabin. Okay, so here are all our settings down here. We've got the exhaust and basically throttle response button there. We've got the suspension or M adaptive suspension button there. We've got the steering weight button there. We've got the gearbox ferocity settings up here. I'll put it into my preset M1. Oh, hear that? So let's just go through, cycle through the exhaust modes. So that's efficiency. That's sports. And that's sport plus. And now let's give it a little blip. As you can see, there are no cracks and pops on the overrun like the X3Ms that you get in the States, because this one is unfortunately fitted with the mandatory OPF filter that we get here in Europe. I'm going to go and pop the camera outside. Okay guys, here we are on the move in the X3M competition. First thing I have to talk about is the amazing driving position. We've already talked about how good these seats look, and they are very comfortable and very supportive. And the driving position in this car is really, really good. I think the driving position in most SUVs are good because you get a commanding driving position. So on A and B roads you can see a bit further down the road usually, and on motorways, as I found out yesterday, when the traffic's quite heavy, you can see 200-300 meters down the road, and you can see cars braking a lot further down the road than you would normally in your normal sports car or average car. So there are some benefits to sitting up high, even though it feels unnatural at first in terms of when you want to start pushing on. In terms of comfort, well, the ride itself initially feels a bit like the M5 competition, but without the ultra comfortable seats that are in the M5 competition. And unlike in those cars where the seat is your padding, in this car it's more the suspension and the tyres are your only cushioning, and therefore you do tend to feel absolutely everything. And in fact, when I drove this car for the first time yesterday, I was reaching down to put it into comfort before I looked down at the dashboard, and I saw that in fact the suspension was already in comfort. And on Buckinghamshire roads, wow, that's it's not particularly comfortable. In fact, as we're stuck behind the slower moving traffic, let's cut to me a bit earlier on, driving down a particularly bumpy road with my GoPro Hero 7 stabilising off. Here we find ourselves on a particularly bad road in Buckinghamshire. The speed limit along here, believe it or not, is 60 miles an hour. I'm not going to go 60 because I don't dare go that fast. I'm going to try and reach 50 and see how this car deals with it. We're in Sports Plus suspension, so the stiffest setting. And I've got the GoPro Hero 7 that you're looking at me in set to stabilisation off, so hopefully it should give you some kind of an idea of how bad this ride is. Here we go. Now there's sections of this road that aren't too bad, and there's sections of this road that are horrific, but yeah, hopefully it'll give you a good idea of what it's like to be driving this car. We're doing 50 miles an hour now, so I'm just going to sit at 50 and try and stay in my seat as well as I can. I've just dipped below 50. I didn't dare keep my foot on the throttle through there. And as you can hopefully see, the road doesn't look too bad. It is, in BMW's defense, it is quite a bad road, but you just wouldn't be getting what I'm getting at the moment in many other cars. But a reminder, I am in Sports Plus, which is the stiffest suspension setting. Of course, the flip side of something that is so stiff and unforgiving is it is so capable when you do get it on a smooth piece of tarmac. And I'm in no doubt that this car on a track or on a German back road would just be menacing, because it just has so much support, so much stiffness in the chassis. I've never felt a car that feels so stiff, and this is a massive, it's a huge car, this is a big family wagon, yet it feels so stiff even when I'm in comfort. Let's talk about the M buttons for a minute. I've got your M buttons on the steering wheel here, same steering wheel basically as you get in the M5 competition, the M8. So I've got my big red preset buttons at the top here, and my M1 button is programmed to give me Sports Plus throttle response and effectively exhaust sound, so maximum exhaust sound, maximum throttle response, and we'll talk more about that in a minute when we come to the engine. The suspension, comfort no matter what, comfort if I want it to be comfortable, which it won't be, comfort if I want it to be sporty, because it's far and away stiff enough in comfort, trust me. And then steering, I've actually got in sport. I'm not sure whether I prefer sport or comfort, but sport feels pretty good to me. Sport Plus is just too heavy, like it is in all BMW normal and M cars. So that's my preset M1 button. I've also got MDM on, it just gives it a bit more adjustability, and four-wheel drive sport. This has got the fantastic MX drive setup, so it's rear bias. It feels great, especially in four-wheel drive sport, which is a really nice addition. And people that haven't driven MX drive yet, so cars like the new M5 and stuff, you can't write them off for being X-drive or all-wheel drive, because they are fantastic, and especially in slipperier conditions, they like to rotate, you know, nice and easily, but yet they're very predictable. They're really, really good setups, and in this one, from what I can tell so far, it feels great. I need to get it on a track or on some private land where I can actually play around with it properly and see if it really does rotate, but from what it feels like on the road under hard acceleration, it definitely feels rear wheel driven, which is exactly what you want in a BMW M car, even a BMW M SUV car. This is probably a good place to talk about the engine. In fact, let's just slow it down a little bit, put it into first, there we go, and let's let it sort of accelerate up to 60 miles an hour. And that's 60 there. It's very, very, very fast. It makes a great sound, and in fact, before we get to talk about the sort of outright performance and its ability, let's knock it back. Let's take it out of my M1 button and let's knock it back into all of the efficiency sort of settings and back into drive. And in fact, this engine reminds me very much of one of the last normally aspirated straight six engines that BMW did. The N52, I think it was called, that was in cars like the E90 330i. It was in my 2006 130i, and it's just a really nice, purry straight six. It sounds, it's the most organic sounding straight six that BMW have made in a while. Certainly since they've turbocharged engines, and under small bits of load, it sounds really nice in here. It reminds me of BMWs of old, and it just purrs away, and you know, it does a great job sound wise. When you push harder, okay, it's got OPF, so you haven't got any pops and bangs, and you haven't got much going on the overrun, but it does sound nice and meaty. So M1 back on again into manual. Let's change it down into second again. Put your foot down. Oh, I mean, you know, it's quick. It's very, very, very quick, and it makes a really, really good sound. As far as I can tell, there's really not much fakery going on here in the cabin. But let's talk about the character of this brand new S58. So it's the M division or M Sport version, motorsport version of the B58 that we know very well, the one that's the engine that's been in the M140s, and in fact, let's talk about it as the engine that's in the X3M 40i, because in that particular car, it's in a really nice state of tune. I think it's about 360 brake horsepower. It feels really punchy, loads of torque, and it just suits that particular car really well. It just throws the 2 tons of this weight just down the road really well in the M140, or the M40i rather. In this particular car, the S58, I'm just not convinced. I'm convinced that it's a brilliant engine. It's a proper motorsport engine. It feels fantastic. It feels so good. It likes to rev all the way out. It's a great engine when you're really booting it, but it's lost a lot of the B58's magic, the torque that's down low, that gives it such an amazing sort of feeling down low and in the mid-range. And in the B58, where you would be, say, changing up at 4,500, 5,000 revs because you don't feel like you're benefiting by going much above that, this engine, no. This engine comes alive at 4,500, 5,000 revs and sings all the way up to over 7,000 RPM up to its red line. And it's there where all the magic happens. That's where all the power is. That's, in fact, the torque feels like the torque comes in at over 3,000 RPM, because below about 2,500 RPM, there's literally no torque whatsoever. And I don't think this engine suits this particular car that well, because it's over 2 tons and it relies on low down torque, especially, again, take it out my M mode and knock it back into automatic. It's a ZF8 speed in this, works very well, but it doesn't have any torque to work with down low. So when you're on the motorway at 70 miles an hour and it's doing about 1,600 RPM, in the B58 version, so the M40i version, it will take you up, you know, up any undulations, up any sort of inclines on the motorway, in your typical sort of motorway. But in this particular car, it really doesn't, and it suffers. And in fact, I was driving it near High Wycombe the other day on the M40. There is, you know, there's a fair old climb where I think it's 4 lanes there. This car had to change back down into 6th to keep pace with the traffic, which is crazy in something that has 510 brake horsepower and 600 Newton meters of torque. You'd think that it would be able to deal with that, but it really can't. And in fact, once we get down this road here, I'm going to demonstrate the lack of torque that this car has, because it is quite astonishing for something that is so powerful and so fast. So we're coming along here now. I'm going to put it into manual so I can override it. So that is, we're in 6th gear now, and we're doing, what are we doing? We're doing 35 miles an hour in 6th. We're at about 1,200 RPM. Foot on the floor. 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44. Okay, so now it's picking up. But there's literally nothing there, where the B58 will definitely pick up a lot harder and a lot quicker. And the problem with that is once you're up in the 60s or 70 miles an hour, where you've got a lot more wind resistance, that minimal torque just doesn't make any difference in speed, so you're constantly having to change down. So yes, it's a great engine, and wow, I can't wait to experience the S58 in the incoming M3 and M4 of next year. But in this heavy shell, it just doesn't seem to deal with the weight that well. So I'm going to leave it in fourth now. 2,500 revs. It's picking up. We're coming into here. Pitch it in. Oh, well, I mean, it's just unbelievable through the corner. Foot on the floor again. 2,000, 2.5, and then it picks up again through here. In fact, I'm going to put it into fifth now. So we're below. We're at 1,800, and there's just nothing. Foot on the floor. Nothing, nothing, nothing. So at least that way you're going to keep hold of your license. But what I'm saying is, the only way to really make this car fly is to be dropping down into lower gears all the time and make sure that it's always above sort of 3,500 RPM, which is fun when you're pushing on, but not so fun when you're using this car as an everyday car. I guess I need to draw some kind of conclusion about the X3M competition. Now, although it's a lot of fun, and I must admit, I'm having loads of fun in this car, it doesn't really make much sense. And I'm looking forward to hopefully comparing it to Pete's X3M 40i, because I think that that car is definitely the better package, for the UK at least. You've got to remember, people that are watching this from abroad, here in the UK we do have some shocking roads, and this car, in comfort, it just can't deal with the shocking road surface. And I think people that are going to buy this car are buying it hopefully as a fast family wagon, and I think there's cars out there that do a much better job as a fast family wagon. The engine, a masterpiece, but again, it doesn't really suit this big heavy car. It's nothing like the 4.4 litre twin turbo V8 that's in the M5 that can deal with the weight, because it's got that low down torque and it's got the displacement. It just deals with weight very well, whereas this 3 litre, it's strung right out. You know, it's more of a motorsport engine, or it is, and it's designed for a lighter car and a lighter chassis, and something that doesn't rely on so much low down torque. So it's a very confused car, and really something like an X330D is probably an all-round better package, and certainly deals with low down speed and ride comfort a lot better. This car, I'm sure it's very capable, and on track I reckon that this would give my M2 competition a run for its money around most circuits. But on the actual road, there's a lot of sacrifices that you have to make in order to want to own this car. And unfortunately, yeah, ride comfort. I'm just rolling along here through a village, and I'm sure you can see on the camera that I'm just moving all over the place at 20 miles an hour. Let's just give it one more little push down this. Oh, I mean, you do this and it reminds you of how good it is. As a sports car, this car's brilliant. As a sports car, it's just amazing. But then why are you buying an X3 as a sports car? I don't know. Maybe there is a small niche out there, but if you don't quite need this performance and straight line pace, I really think the X3 M40i is a better proposition. Anyway guys, I hope you've enjoyed this review. Please give us a thumbs up if you have. Remember to check out my brand controlandshift.com. I'll put a link to that in the description below. And please make sure you leave any comments and questions below in the comments section. One more acceleration up here. It just revs all the way. It really does. Wow. Cool guys, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next one, and yeah, I'll see you guys then. Cheers. Here's my solution for BMW and this particular road. Get yourselves a cushion. My cushion of choice is this Avengers one because it fits perfectly. Prod it above your head like that. Get some packing tape. Again, most tapes will do. See if we can do this properly. Place some around your chin, and then as the car drives past, probably like, what is that guy doing? Well, they don't realise that I'm about to invent something that's going to be very, very useful to all X3M competition owners in the UK. Now, as you can see, another car's about to pass. I think they're already looking at my cushion head. As you can see, it fits perfectly. Right, so let's try that bit of road again, but this time with the special cushion option enabled. Instantly, I can feel that my head has got more security around it. This time, I'm going to attack everything at 50 miles an hour because I'm not afraid. I've got my Avengers cushion above my head. Here we go. Okay, up to 50 miles an hour, approaching the same bit of road. Okay, maybe I could do with a bit of extra strapping around here, but so far so good. Also shows you that there is a lot of headroom in this car because 6'4", Avengers cushion, well, no problemo. Okay, 50 miles an hour. Okay, well, the ride hasn't got any better, which is no surprise because we've done nothing with the ride, but the fear of me hitting my head on the roof is, whoa, is just as bad. So I think we should pull over here and conclude that if you are going to buy one of these, make sure you've got something like this Avengers cushion and some packing tape, just in case you venture to places like Buckinghamshire where the roads are pretty horrific.